I'd like to invite our next experience maker to the stage, who happens to be a joint customer of Adobe and Magento, and that is the Accent Group. And the Accent Group is the regional leader in retail and distribution of performance and lifestyle footwear, with over 447 stores across 9 different retail banners, and exclusive distribution rights for 10 international brands across Australia and New Zealand. The brands include the Athlete's Foot, Hype DC, Platypus Shoes, Podium Sports, Skechers, Merrell, Vans, Doc Martens, Saucony, Timberland, Sperry Topsiders, Palladium, and Stance. And this is the individual that is responsible for my custom kicks here today. So I want you to join me in welcoming the Chief Digital Officer for Accent Group, Mark Teperson. Mark, welcome.
Hey, Brad. Great to be here.
Let's have a seat. So we're kind of twinners, right? See those shoes? So you got some custom shoes there as well. Tell us a little bit about the background for yours.
Yeah, so our great mantra at Accent Group is about making it happen. So one of the great things, I think, when we got the brief and we saw this whole idea around being experience makers, we talk about being experience makers and storytellers. But if there's one thing that our CEO drills into us all the time, it's about making stuff happen, right? So find the insight, make it happen. And we did these in a pretty quick turnaround.
So that was the video of the artist actually hand, painting these shoes.
Absolutely.
How long did it take?
Full day.
A full day.
So started in the Adobe Creative Cloud and then worked his magic with his tools.
I love it. And if we've got a camera out here, can we just let's do Wonder Twin Powers activate with our 2 shoes. Let's get a picture. All right. So Mark, tell us a little bit about your journey to the Accent Group. How did you get here? You're Chief Digital Officer, you're driving an innovation agenda. Tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
Sure. My journey as an entrepreneur really kind of started quite some time ago. My first job out of university, in university rather, was working actually at the Athlete's Foot. Worked at the Athlete's Foot, sold a pair of shoes to the owners of Shoes and Socks. Lo and behold, I joined them and in a short period of time became general manager and then decided that it was time to go and start my own thing, and that was my entrepreneurial journey.
Wow.
And 3.5 years later, with a great partner, we built a business, a shoe business, and sold it to the public company, which is the Accent Group today. And strangely enough, I've come full circle because the very first business that I worked for, which is the Athlete's Foot, actually happens to be one of the brands that we are proud owners of in Australia today.
And you're representing. So has shoes always been a passion for you?
I didn't realize it at the time, but when I was recruited into the Athlete's Foot, the guy that recruited me said, "Are you sure you want a career in footwear?" And he said it 3 times, like, Dorothy, and she clicked her heels, and magically now I have, 80 pairs of shoes in my wardrobe at any given time, and I purge about half of them every 6 months. So, yeah, I'm a shoe guy.
Apparently. I need to record that clip because I am not even close to 80 pairs of shoes. And if my wife is watching this proves that there are people with problems worse than mine. But, it's actually, and this is completely aside, not to do with the Accent Group, but you showed me an app on your phone that true sneakerheads would know about.
Yeah.
And it's where people who understand what the market value for a pair of sneakers should be globally. Tell us a little bit about that app.
Yeah, so the app itself is, I think the wonderful thing about our space is that it's about stories and telling those stories. And those stories come out in limited editions and they become, collector's editions. And there's an entire sneaker world that is created around, trading in sneakers in the aftermarket. So there's a number of apps that have kind of grown up in this space, and it kind of puts heat back in the brands. It's an amazing story. The Nike Air Mags that were first featured on Back to the Future, Nike's recently released with the full digital lock. Those shoes, which I think retailed for $5,000 when they first launched, now retail for in excess of 40 grand. So, shoe collecting.
Do people buy those and wear them?
You can make money shoe collecting.
Do people buy those, or do they just go straight onto a shelf displayed? I mean, you don't wear those.
There are people that proudly have built bank vaults in their homes to keep their sneaker collections.
So in terms of audience segmentation, that group, that cohort would be a valuable audience for you.
Absolutely.
Look at that. I just came up with that. It was Adobe Sensei working. So talk a little bit about, and truly in audiences, as you think about categories. I mean, shoes, and it is a very hot category globally, and no matter where you are. And you've spoken about the group, the Accent group, really catering from first to last walkers. What does that mean, first to last?
Yeah, I mean, you rattled off a whole bunch of brands that we're very proud custodians of, right? And I think the way that we describe it is that we see everything from first walkers to last walkers and everything in between. And what I mean by that is that we see that entire customer continuum. And what's really powerful about that for us is that we've got a number of brands that are centered around the millennial consumer, and they're fast consumers, they're adopting technology quickly. And equally, we've got a number of brands that sit in, much more mature segments that are still, adopters of technology, but just not at the same pace. So it provides us with a really great platform to be able to test and learn and deploy new technology at a pace that doesn't, put the organization under too much pressure. Although I think our head of technology in the room here today would probably tell me different.
And you in the intro, there was it 447 stores?
Yeah.
So 447 stores. Clearly, traditional brick and mortar retailing is a part of the strategy. That's there. So as you think about digital and physical and the blending between those two, what have you done? Has it been successful? And if so, what have the keys to that been?
Yeah, sure. Physical retail is such an important part of our business and will continue to be. And I think what's so great about the store, right? If you think about experiences are sensory. So in a physical environment, you get to test and play with all of the senses. You can see, but more importantly, you can touch, you can feel. In some retail experiences, you can taste. And I remember, going into great hotels, and I think about this, there's a scent. I always walk into that hotel and I know the hotel that I'm in is that great scent. So stores have always been really important, and we've delivered awesome experiences in our stores. And the real challenge around digital was that you really only have maybe one sense to play with, which is sight, right? And if you're maybe in the music game, sound. So our challenge was, how do we create those great experiences digitally and emulate what we're delivering to our customers in store? So we've fundamentally changed the way that we think about our assets in our business. So we had 447 stores, largest footwear retailer in Australia, lots of competitors coming into the market, lots of people talk about Amazon and other pure plays coming in, but we have the biggest asset at our disposal because we've got customers that love us and we've got all of these great stores, right? So we started thinking about our stores not only as experience centers for customers, but as distribution centers for our product. And that's enabled us to unlock ship from store. We launched same-day delivery earlier this month, and really proud to say that in the pursuit of trying to deliver that, we'll call it fluid experience, right? I mean, our teams today are processing an order ready to be shipped within 18 minutes of receiving it online, which is a pretty awesome feat, and we can do that constantly. So it's that consistent experience and changing it up. And we feel like we're now adding to our whole brand experience of what we deliver in store and now digitally online.
It is interesting that there are now digital native companies that started just online that are opening stores. And a couple years ago, everyone thought stores were just going to go away. It's completely the opposite. They're playing an important part of that brand journey and that customer experience. Mark, we talked this morning about hey, technology is part of this, but the second part is amplifying your talent. Maybe share for a minute what you guys have done to bring talent on board, to bring them along on this journey that you're on at the Accent Group.
Yeah, sure. I'm really fortunate that I work for a great business that believes in investing in experience. And when I say that, I mean that it's not just our in-store experience, but it's the experience that we get to live in our offices as well. I actually relocated from Sydney to Melbourne a few months ago in January, and we built a purpose facility down there, a digital hub, a center of excellence. And so when we think about, retaining talent, it's not only about finding that great talent, right? You've got to be able to keep it. There are a lot of great themes that were touched on earlier this morning in terms of, find great people, empower them, and get the hell out the way, right? And I like to think that we do try and do that as best as we possibly can and live to those values.
And it's one that the Accent Group, and maybe it's you, maybe it's the group, but you guys really have been a step ahead of Adobe for some time now. And we acquire Magento. You've been a Magento customer for how long?
7 years.
7 years. Another acquisition that we made a few years ago, a company called Neolane.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that story.
So we were the first customer in Australia to actually ink a deal with Neolane, which was the French-based business that is now Adobe Campaign, right? Yeah. And I swear the ink wasn't even dry on the contract, and this big announcement came out that Adobe had acquired Neolane. And that was really my first introduction into the platform and the business. I mean, always been aware of the Creative Cloud and obviously PDF. But over the course of the last 4 years that we've been partners there, it's been really great to see what you have done to bring that into the ecosystem and the value that that's now creating for us. So when I saw your acquisition of Magento, I was like, here we go again. I only wish I'd bought the stock.
You can't get away from us.
I know, if I'd only bought the stock.
So if you really want to know, who Adobe's going to acquire next, don't ask me. Apparently, you need to ask Mark, as he's building that. But it has been. We really appreciate the partnership there, and look forward to integrating Magento to make you at Accent Group that much more successful. So maybe think about what does the future of experiences look like from your perspective. What's next for you?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? I suppose the way that we think about the world is that we think that content is the next competitive frontier, the next major competitive frontier. And we believe that data is the next dominant currency. So bringing those two things together in a way that enables us to scale our organization and bring better experiences to consumers is definitely, the area of focus for us at the moment. I think the biggest challenge that we face, and we've certainly made some big steps to make some changes here, is about content velocity. Because with all of these opportunities to create personalized experiences, we've got to be able to feed the content into the platform to enable that. And that's certainly the huge area of focus where we spend our time at the moment.
It's interesting. We talk as an industry so much about big data and getting the data right. But that content velocity story is one I don't think we talk enough about, because you think about that. If you're going to personalize an email or a website to 1 million people, okay, so I've got to create 1 million different variations of the same piece of content. Well, go ahead and bid out to your creative agency how much that's going to cost. And how do you take that content and break it down into subcomponents and be able to assemble that at real time, at runtime, at the time that experience comes together? That is one that I think is a big problem to solve.
Absolutely.
And it's there. Well, look, Mark, the Accent Group is a fantastic brand. I am really passionate about shoes, so this has been a particularly fun session to prep for. And I really just thank you to you and the artist and the team. As soon as I get off stage, I'm gonna take these off and put them back in the box, because I want to take them back to the office and show everybody. So appreciate that and appreciate the partnership.
Very cool. Great to be here.
Thank you.
Brad.
Give him a round of applause.
Thanks, guys.